This is Money Made Simple, the financial podcast that keeps it simple and gets to the point.
Kia ora and welcome back to Money Made Simple, brought to you by Simplicity. Kia ora, Jenny.
Hello, Liv.
Just before we start, we're going to lean into our monthly milestone. So you did the last one.
I'm excited.
I know, and this is something that's really close to my heart. I get really excited about, and it's something that's always great to advertise, and that is that we have just cut our fees again.
Yay!
Yes, so that's for the 7th time in 7 years, which is cool. So basically it feels like we're going to have to cut them every year ongoing so we can keep using this line, right?
It's just the old case of the more we grow, the more we can pass the benefits of scale onto our members.
Exactly. And it's one of the reasons that I love working for Simplicity so much. And this one was a cut to 0.24% as now our annual KiwiSavers fee. Used to be 0.25, doesn't sound much, but it just shows that we actually are committed to keeping reducing our fees as we can.
We really are.
Yeah. So anyway.
Great milestone.
Yes. So let's move on to today's topic. August was Money Month. That's just passed. So that's something that's sorted, puts on each year. And while it's not still Money Month, I thought that this would be quite a cool topic to think about money myths.
Okay.
So we're going to break down and attack the top 5 money myths that come up.
Well, that sounds like fun.
Well, it's something that I think so many of us will have grown up with believing in, and some of these things are just simply not true. So
Yeah, and some of the things that you look at, you don't even know how or why you think this. It's just always been. So it's important to challenge these things.
Exactly. So let's get stuck in.
Okay.
Number 1 is the idea of not earning enough to be able to save. This is particularly relevant in today's cost of living crisis, right? There are lots of people that are living paycheck to paycheck, feeling like they are kind of at the breadline.
Yeah.
They're only earning enough to cover all their costs. So
It is really hard to justify saving for the future when right now is really difficult.
Yeah.
And I think this applies even when there's not a cost of living crisis. Just, I think I don't earn enough money to save. I've just got enough to live my life. And so you don't. Definitely, this is something that I did for way too long.
many years.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people think that saving up for an emergency fund, which was actually
The theme
linking
of
it back,
yes.
of Sorted's Money Month last month, they feel like they can't have an emergency fund because they can't afford to save towards it.
Yeah, and the irony of that is if you don't have an emergency fund and you end up having to go into debt to when you do have an emergency, so you either have to put something on a credit card or you have to get a loan out, that's going to cost you more in the long run anyway. So it actually makes a lot of sense to save up front for these situations.
Yeah. But going into the how, though, I think it's all about starting small. $5 a week actually adds up to around $260 a year. Add compounding returns or interest to that, and it's actually going to be bigger than that.
It can really add up.
Yeah, you can start small. It's just about getting started and not thinking that you just don't have enough.
Yeah, and it's funny that thinking you don't have enough, because I've had this kind of I'm broke mentality for many, many years, but I still found the money to buy a couple of coffees a week or go out for dinner with friends or whatever. So there is flexibility. And if you just take that $5 or more, if you can afford it, out as soon as you're paid and you don't even see it, then it just becomes habitual. You start small and it can grow over time.
Yeah, I think there's 2 things in there. It's about habit forming, so it's getting into that habit of saving, and about automating. So have it go out to a savings account automatically from your paycheck as soon as you get paid, if that's what you need to do to make sure that it is easier to actually get stuck in.
And I think just stop telling yourself that when I get the next job or I get the pay rise, then I'll start saving. Just actually start now.
Yep.
Start wherever you're at.
Yeah, savings can start small.
Yep.
Okay, next one is, I think, a little bit controversial. And I think we have slightly differing opinions on this, but
Hit me.
I think it's a myth that credit cards are always bad. It's a myth that I hear, and I think that you perpetuate as well, in terms of cutting up the credit card and all of that. So I think credit cards can work for you in the right circumstances.
Yeah, and we do talk about it like this, that it's actually a bit personality dependent, use of a credit card. So they can become a real problem for people that don't manage them. You're a very disciplined human, so you can earn the air points or whatever other sort of programs that credit cards are sometimes linked to. It can be really beneficial. But for me, it is potentially just a source of debt and fines. And
Absolutely. Credit cards aren't inherently evil. It's how they're managed that can be really bad. If you don't pay your credit card off in full, and that means in full in terms of how much the balance is every single month, then there's no point in having one. That's when credit cards are bad.
yeah, and I think it's just easy access to money. So at a time when things are really tight, if you've got a credit card with a $5,000 limit and you want something and you're sick of scrimping and saving, then you've just got this really easy access. You can just go and buy the thing that you want straight away, not thinking about what it might cost you in the long term. So
I think it's about making sure that the spend on your credit card never outpaces what you actually have available in your bank.
yes, well, that sounds very sensible. If only that's how we know that New Zealanders have billions of dollars of debt on credit cards alone, of consumer debt, and that these aren't to pay for education or important. This is consumer debt, buying things that people want rather than need. So
you can tell quite clearly who's on each side of the fence. I think that if you are strategic and disciplined about it and you pay off your credit card in full every month, then you can make it work for you. So, for example, we have a bank loan that is an offset loan. We've done some podcasts and we've got some blogs on Simplicity that talks about these different mortgage types, so I won't go into it. But it basically means that we want to have as much money in our current accounts as we can, because that offsets the interest we pay. And so for us, we spend everything on our credit card and then pay it off in full every month. But it means that the money is sitting in our account for longer.
Working for you.
Exactly. Yeah. So that is an example. If you can afford it, we know whether we can afford what we're spending on our credit card and that we'll be able to pay the whole amounts back each month. It's just spending on a different card for us.
Yeah.
And so you can make it work for you, but if you don't feel like you can make it work for you, if you can't pay it off in full or don't have the discipline or don't want to think about managing that, then that's when credit cards can be bad.
Yeah, because the interest rate on credit cards is very high.
Around 20%.
Yes, so that money that you owe can start to increase quite
Snowball.
rapidly. Yeah. There can be fines for getting in too far in arrears on your credit card, been there. So it can be dangerous. I think what we're saying is, yes, we can bust the myth that credit cards are bad, but maybe there are good credit card users and bad credit card users.
Yes, but they're not always bad. Moving on. Buying a house is always better than renting. This is a really popular one in New Zealand, right?
Yeah, and we've actually just done a whole episode on this. Yeah, there's an obsession in New Zealand about owning a home, and that's what often people consider to be financially successful, is you have to own your own home. Mm-hmm. But that's not always the case, and we crunched the numbers, and renting it can actually be a really good option for people as long as you're still saving for the future in some way and you're building that long-term wealth. Then renting gives you flexibility. There's a lot less associated costs with renting, because if the dishwasher breaks, you don't have to replace it. That's on the landlord. You don't have to do the home maintenance, that kind of thing, pay the rates, insurance, or the list goes on. So it can be a really good option.
Yes. And so while with owning a house, you are eventually going to end up with an asset, in terms of the day-to-day or month-to-month of renting, it's actually often a lot cheaper than owning a house.
Yeah. You just need to be saving for the long term at the same time.
Exactly. So whether renting or buying is better is really dependent on your life stage and situation, right?
Yeah. I think renting can work for some people, it can work for their whole lives, but for other people, it might be for a period of time when they prioritise that flexibility and not spending all their weekends doing DIY. And then later in life, maybe buying a house is more important, not just financially, but for other reasons as well. Yeah.
Cool. Next one is my favourite one. I'd really like this myth to be busted completely, is that you have to be rich to invest.
Well, I can kind of understand how that's happened, and I think that that myth will actually naturally start to be busted. But, it was only 10, 15 years ago that to invest, you actually needed a broker or you needed a minimum of $10,000 or something to get started.
Even?
And so that was just an unjumpable hurdle for so many Kiwis, but that is changing and investing is becoming much more accessible and the bar has come down too, right?
Exactly. In a lot of cases, and as is now the case with Simplicity investment funds, there's not even a minimum to start investing. Open your investment account and invest $5 to start.
Yeah.
And that's obviously something that we actually changed recently. We used to have a minimum investment of $1,000, and that was while we were both working here, right? And I felt like that was quite a barrier for people. We got a lot of feedback, and that's one of the reasons we took away those minimums. And there's a whole lot of other platforms and providers out there. You can start really small.
Yeah, everything that we talk about, we're always like, just start now. Stop putting off these decisions. But if there's a minimum investment threshold and you're saying start now, but actually you have to save up $1,000 first before you can start, that's a real barrier to people, and they will get waylaid. Life happens. They might not be able to meet that first threshold. So if we lower that and people can get started with whatever they've got, then that's fantastic. And and in most cases they can do that.
And I think the key benefit underlying the problem with that myth is that investing early is better for you in the long run. So that famous saying, time in the market is better than timing the market. The earlier that you start, having that money go towards your fund and have the time and compounding returns be applied to your money.
So starting small early is the best thing to do.
Yeah, and waiting until you have a bigger amount to start with means that you'll miss out on however long that was that you waited, all of that growth over that time. Yeah. So a good example of that is that the US market and the famed S&P 500 has been on a bull run for the last, I think, over a year now, technically. And so someone that's been waiting a year or 2 years,
putting money into a savings account, waiting,
missed that bull run. So start investing early and also investing often is the real key here. So,
and you never know when the good times are going to come either,
or the bad times.
Yeah. So you just now is the time.
Exactly. And finally, I kind of agree with this. I kind of agree with this one, but there's a myth around budgeting being no fun, being boring, and being horrible.
Do you mean that creating a budget and sticking to a budget is boring, or that you can't have fun if you're on a budget? Or do you mean both?
Let's go with both.
Well, I agree with one of those because putting a budget together is quite tedious.
I don't think it has to be.
And can be confronting. It's fun for you, is it?
No, I don't think it's fun, but I don't think it has to be tedious and boring. I think you can keep it really simple. And I think automating things helps. If you take a little bit of time to set up some automations just after payday that things go out to, in terms of, say, bills, groceries, investing and fun money.
Yeah, I think the setup does take a little bit of time and effort because you really need to understand what you've got coming in and be honest about all of your expenses to make a budget work. So you can't kind of oversimplify that. But once you've got that set up, and if you can bake in that automation where you don't have to think about things too much. And there's loads of tools. That's the other thing. There are definitely tools available to make it as easy as possible and to help you track whether you're sticking to your budget and things. And I think the most important thing is in your budget, yes, you should be saving. Yes, hopefully you're contributing to some sort of longer term investments, but you should also, and it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but budget for some fun. So actually have money that you're setting aside for spending time with your friends, going to the movies, going to gigs, saving up for shorter term kind of thing. If you put it in your budget, then it's guilt-free fun.
It almost makes that spending more enjoyable because you budgeted for it.
Yeah. And you know that you've got all your other bases covered and you're not having that fun at the expense of being able to pay off your credit card, for example. Or some
nice
other...
segue back.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Budgeting can mean that you get to have more fun because you budgeted for it.
Oh, yes. You have busted that myth.
Cool. All right. Well, that's our top 5. I think that's probably all we have time for. So hopefully there might have been some myths that you might have thought were true.
Or applied to you. Yeah.
Exactly. And we've just busted them away, battered them away like annoying flies. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, Liv.
This podcast contains personal opinions and is intended to provide educational information only. It doesn't relate to your particular financial situation or goals and is not financial advice or recommendations. Simplicity New Zealand Limited is the issuer of the Simplicity KiwiSaver scheme and investment funds. For product disclosure statements, please visit Simplicity's website simplicity.kiwi.